let's talk classification then. Just under 50% of respondents reported that threat information to space systems should be disclosed or unclassified more often, while 33% said it should not, and the remainder were just kind of not sure on their stance. Those numbers were about the same if broken down by either DoD officials or industry. So those are people who are saying threats to our systems in orbit, or threat to system orbit should remain classified. What's interesting is almost 58% of respondents said that they believe American offensive space-based capabilities should not be declassified, and only 23% called for greater transparency to the systems. But defense officials were 10% more likely to call for declassifying offensive space systems than non-defense officials.
It really depends on what you're trying to do when you decide and what you decide to declassify. Even whether you're talking about acquisition, if you need to build something and you acquire something, if the classification is inhibiting you, is it worth the exposure, even in a controlled environment, to allow you to operate faster? Is it worth the exposure externally to influence or shape? There's not one answer to this. And it's surprising to me that you get this kind of response because it all depends on what people are thinking about when they think about this particular question.
In regards to the poll about having 50% saying yes, threats to U.S. space security assets should be declassified, I think that makes sense. That's something that DoD has been talking about for a while. And I think it has been helpful in terms of trying to send a message in terms of what the U.S. needs to deal with. I just think it's wild that the United States has not been able to declassify a lot of these sort of things. I think that speaks to residual Cold War hangover thinking about what kind of threats there are to U.S. Space assets. It used to be back in the day, if you didn't want people to find out about threats or things up in space, that you could just not talk about it and keep it classified. But now that anyone with a decent cell phone can go out and monitor satellites passing overhead, I think it seems ridiculous to think that one can limit information about their existence and not talking their intent or that sort of thing. So I think that is something that is a more realistic view of what the U.S. classification purposes should be looking at.
It's pretty incredible that there are so many high-level people talking about this and not a lot is happening. You mentioned General Hyten statements. Former Air Force Secretary Barrett has made similar sentiments, as well as General Dickinson. Earlier this year, General Raymond also said the Space Force is starting some declassification process. Of course, the details of that were classified, but apparently they are working on something. So to have, at least 4 people just off the top of my head that are, real leaders in military space, not able to get the ball rolling on this is pretty crazy to me. But it clearly speaks to a real problem in overclassification, and maybe how many, hoops you have to jump through to get anything done that are really for these really important problems. So it's pretty jarring when you look at it that way.